And seems that we are live. Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico Lagan, and I am the in-house conservative. The other guy on the show is Rob, our token lefty, and together we speak about what's trending in the news today. Our goal is simple. We want to show you that it is still possible for the left and the right to get along. And even if we don't agree, it's still possible for us to have that conversation because common sense has no political affiliation. Rob, what's going on, brother?
What's happening, brother? You nailed it. You got that
Not bad,
intro down. Not bad at all.
Not bad.
Like it.
I'm gonna have to say it a few more times, and then I'll fuck it up. I fuck my intros up all the time. That's why my other show has none. I just start talking because I fucked it up so many times. But hey, that's part of the job, right? People don't see that. Right. They don't see the behind the scene. And because this is live, I don't remove this. I'm not going to remove it. If I look like a fucking idiot, I'll leave it there. If I look like I nailed it like this time, I'll keep it there too. So what's going on, man?
No, what's happening? How's your day going so far?
Oh, never ends, bro. Never ends.
Slow news day.
Sure, but
I mean, relatively so.
It seems slow because Trump has not gone crazy with executive orders over the past 24 hours. So it kind of leaves us space to look at what else is going on or what we didn't get to talk about yesterday. Because this is one of the subjects we're going to cover. I don't know I honestly don't know how that guy sleeps. Like, where does he get the time to sleep? It seems like he's always doing something. It's insane, absolutely insane.
It's what I find actually interesting is I noticed that credit where it's due and all that. It seems silly because I feel like I'm constantly complimenting the guy a lot, which goes against I guess my instincts. But like compared to his first term, he seems almost healthier, like dynamic. And again, I sort of hate to do that, but like I said at the beginning when we started covering Trump, I'm just gonna call it like I see it. I'm gonna forget everything I know about him and assume like fresh start from day one. And he, I don't know what it is. Maybe they upped his Adderall dosage or something, but he looks, it seems pretty dynamic. I mean, he's
that's how it should be, though.
He's an old dude,
but I like the way you approach it, though. I think that started.
Yeah.
But I think you have the right idea because this is exactly how I see it too. Whatever he did in 2017 to 2021 or 2016 to 2020, whatever, that's in the past. But no matter what, man, he is on a fucking tear. Love what he's doing or not, that dude is on a tear. And he is just lighting the world on fire, as in, let's see how I think he wakes up every day just like, how can I piss people off? Like, how can I create, like, I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, absolutely he does. He's got a plan. He's got a plan and he's executing. And again, like it or not, I mean, that's just factual. But yeah, like you said, I think it's, I am on the left, I'm a lib. And so I think one thing that we've got in our own heads about lately is this idea that we can dismiss people who don't agree with us out of hand, and that obviously has not worked well for us if you're familiar with the results of the last presidential election. And that is one of the things I think we need to change. So I guess it's be the change you wish you want to see kind of thing. But it's just it's a good policy. I mean, we gotta broaden our horizons a little bit, especially on the left. We got to get out of our safe bubbles, our safe spaces, and get out there. And how can you make your case persuasively if you refuse to engage with the other side? You know what I mean? You can't do it.
And to add to what you're saying right now, this is not only true between the left and the right, but I think that for Canadians, they need to listen to this more. Because we don't have that exchange in Canada right now. There's nobody like really that's popular like Trump in Canada that's actually shaking things up, because everybody in Canada can say that something's wrong. Like the vast majority of people are not happy with what's going on in Canada right now. But we don't have really that person on the other side of the aisle that's there to keep on pushing our buttons to make us realize that, you know what, there's something wrong. Let's fucking figure out what it is. Again, like what Trump is doing or not, he is pushing the buttons that needs to be pushed to create a reaction and to have a conversation. And up to now, that conversation is there. People are talking. I don't see any censorship between the two, and hopefully we get to learn how to speak to each other. But it's the same reason why on January 18th, we're gonna have Maxime Bernier on. Like, what did I just say?
You said January.
Oh Jesus, man! I'm so off, man. I do not.
Just knock the rest off.
Oh no, but
you got the pregnancy brain too, eh?
Oh yeah, man, I
contagious.
It is not easy to sleep when your wife is sleeping like shit. So I'm sleeping like shit because I'm a very light sleeper. So it's part of the deal though. But my brain is foggy. So February 18th, we're gonna have Maxime Bernier. And the goal is pretty much similar to what we were talking about right now, to be able to have that conversation with someone that's not getting the exposure. And if you guys go on Next right now and you look at the post that we made announcing that we're going to have him on, we're not even participating in the conversation. Rob and I have kind of backed away, and people are just arguing and discussing amongst each other. So you know that there's a space. I think there's a want for this type of conversation. Clearly people are interested, even if people agree with Maxime or people are disagreeing with him, they're still talking. So clearly there's a want for this. It's happening in the US, which is great, and I hope that it starts happening in Canada. I hope the next election in Canada will allow a guy like Maxime Bernier to debate. He's not going to win. He's not going to become prime minister. He's not. I think everybody can agree to this, but he can open that conversation by pointing out what Poilievre is doing wrong and by what the Liberals are doing wrong from a third perspective, not just from the conservative versus Liberal, but from an outsider saying, I used to be conservative, I'm no longer one, and this is why I'm different. And people are starting to call him the Trump of Canada. I don't know if you saw, but people are starting to compare him as in the Trump of Canada, which I kind of find very interesting.
Certainly got the outsider thing going, right? I'm glad you brought that up there about sort of promoting that a little bit, but correct. Like,
I like how I connect in both. You like how I kind of brought it in, just smooth,
very smooth. Yeah, little sleight of hand.
You like that, eh?
But yeah, this ain't your first rodeo, that's for sure.
Nope.
But one thing that I've noticed in the comments on that piece is, there's a lot of conservatives either saying their piece about Bernier, but then there's a lot of libs or center left people being like, "Fuck that guy," and that's like exactly what I'm talking about. We got to get away from that shit. Like, it's not going to be a softball interview. We're not here to fluff the guy's balls or anything. It's not going to be a gotcha or whatever, but we're going to ask hard questions. He doesn't know our questions. I'm going to ask questions that are relevant to the left. This isn't just a puff piece for Maxime Bernier. And if nothing else, it's like Sun Tzu said, know thy enemy, right? If you know your enemy, you're better prepared for the battle. Even if you hate the guy, even if you know you're going to disagree with him, you're going to be in a better place to oppose him if you listen to him. We got to listen again. It's a skill that we've lost. And, I think that's something me and you both feel strongly about. We got to get back to that place.
Couldn't agree with you more. And it starts with him. But as we've been discussing, I want to bring people from my other podcasts, like people like a Judith Curie, which is climatologist, one of the most educating climatologists in the US that's been getting destroyed by climate change activists. So I want to be able to bring people like her so that you can question her, so that you can come from a perspective and rip into her. And I want to get people like Featherman from the US, like the senator from the US, so that I can rip into him, so that you can rip into him. So this is the idea. And we're just giving you an update as to where we're trying to go with this. But Maxime Bernier is kind of the first interview we're going to do with that type of flavor to it, where we're going to have somebody else show up and we're going to run a interview from both the right and the left, because I'm more right than Maxime Bernier. I'm more conservative than Maxime Bernier. Like even Maxime.
You think so?
Yeah. Because I'm a Christian, he's not, right? So there's certain values that are a lot more traditional. Do I agree with basically most of the stuff that he posts? Absolutely. But I think I'm more conservative than him just because I'm a Christian on top of what I do.
Well, I'll tell you one interesting thing. Just sort of taking my own advice here. Since we booked this interview, I have looked at him a little more. I mean, I knew who he was before. More familiar with him when he was in the Conservative Party, just because I mean, this guy was Minister of Foreign Affairs. You know what I mean? Like he was high up in the Canadian government. Like he's an important person. But clearly, you can see so I looked into him, and you can see, you know, he definitely leans into the Trumpy, trolly, memey kind of thing. But I haven't seen anything that would justify a lot of the criticism. I haven't seen him, you know, he's not a far-right Nazi. He's not a fascist. You may not agree with his politics. And I certainly don't agree with many of the things that I saw, but I did not see anything that justifies, you know, fuck this Nazi. You know, the vibe that people on the left are basically saying. And I mean, that's a culture thing. That's a culture thing on the left. And we really, really, you know, there's a lot of things we have to do, but that's one of the main things is you if you don't listen to the people opposite you, you can't actually oppose them. And what happens is what we saw on November 7th or whenever the election was. And that's what we're going to see going forward unless we pull our heads out of our asses and start getting smart. And one of those things is listening to people you don't agree with. So
that's the number one thing. But you should always be listening to people you don't agree with, or else how can you really believe what you believe in if you can't be challenged?
Yes.
And this is where it all comes from, right? If your ideas cannot hold to challenge, or if you're not able to explain your views in a way that either resonates with others or makes sense to others, or even open their eyes to something like I do here, for example, I don't expect people to agree with me. I really don't. But if what I say can open your eyes, and just to say, you know what, maybe he's onto something, maybe there's something behind what he's saying, and makes you research it, my job's done. That's it. I'm happy. That to me, if there's one perspective I want to do with this show, that's it. So that being said, there's three things we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about Google changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. We're going to talk about the Trump tariffs on well, you know what, the Trump tariffs on aluminum and steel, that's a big deal. We wanted to talk about it yesterday. We didn't get a chance to it because we went down rabbit holes, but this is kind of what we do either way. And then we wanted to talk about the third thing that we will keep on the radar every time that it comes up, and it's an update on Trump's Gaza plans, because he came up with something yesterday. I got a great video about it too. So let's talk about, I want to keep on the Gaza thing until it gets resolved or something really massive happen. I want to talk about it all the time.
It's essentially feels like the final act of a multi-decade play. I mean, essentially, it's probably one of the biggest stories in geopolitics of the last 20 years, playing out right now in real time. You know, however you feel about what Trump did when he basically came out and said, "Yeah, we're going to take over Gaza." He put the ball in motion. He broke a stalemate. Whichever way it goes, something does have to change, and that's going to change probably in the near-ish future. So, I mean, just as a fan of history and global politics, it's exciting on that regard, but it's also important, I think, for a lot of, you know, just a lot of other things that maybe are indirectly related to it. It'll be interesting to see, because obviously the Israel-Palestine issue it's a loaded issue. It's far more than just the issues on the ground, right? It's become a political football in so many ways. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well.
We'll get for sure that on Monday, we're going to have to talk about this again, because if I'm not mistaken, the exchange, you know, the ceasefire, depending on the exchange of Hamas releasing Israeli prisoners has a deadline of Saturday. Okay. So you know that if something doesn't happen by Saturday night, if they're not released, we both know that Trump's going to do something. He's not just going to sit on that and twirl his thumb. We both know that's not the type of guy he is. So let's see what happens, but it's going to continue.
Yeah. He might do something stupid, but he'll do something. He'll definitely do something.
I don't know what he's going to do, but he's doing something. I think we can all agree on this.
Yeah, that's right.
Here is something I found interesting. So this is trending right now. This just shows to you how slow of a day this is, because this is trending on, and I'm not talking about the 30-day intermittent fasting diet here. I'm actually talking about the map that's right here. So
turns out, brought to you by.
Yeah, exactly. Although I've been doing intermittent fasting for like 7 years, and it's fucking incredible. So we can talk about that later on. But
I was with
right now,
yeah.
That's a rabbit hole we shouldn't go down to, because 45 minutes is not a lot of time for me to go through that. But the Google yesterday changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. This is something Trump has been talking about for a while now. I think he even talked about on Inauguration Day that he wanted to do this. But what's interesting is that Google did it, which I find that very funny, because Google is very left-leaning. They're not fans of Trump's. They've blocked his content in the past. They've throttled him, like YouTube will do anything they can to prevent his fucking mouth from, or his face to be on their platform. Yet yesterday they changed the name. Now, this is just true for Americans. Like, the Gulf of America is only appearing in the US. So I invite you to check, because I'm in Alabama right now. So when I check, it says
I'm gonna check that.
The Gulf of America. But supposedly, as per the articles, after the article that we have in front of us right now, like newssky.com, they're saying that in America it's been changed to Gulf of America. In Mexico, it is still the Gulf of Mexico. But what I found funny is that in the rest of the world, supposedly that's what they did. It became the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America in brackets, which
that's what I got. I got Gulf of Mexico, and then in brackets, Gulf of America.
I told you, man, Sky.com
microcosm of like.
But newsky.com is great. Like, they come from, if I'm not mistaken, they're from Australia. Love that place. Like, they're very non-biased. Like, they actually are. They post shit from the left, from the right, from the middle. And I found that funny. I don't know why they kept that on. But before you say something, let me say this to you. And I posted about it this morning. I like the term. I like the name Gulf of America better, because both Mexico and the US are part of North America. So having something like Gulf of America, it's not Gulf of the United States of America. It's Gulf of America, which, if we refer to it as North America, to me makes fucking sense that it's called that way. But what I really want to see is, or what I really want to know is Trump going to go after the Great Lakes next? Because that would be fucking hilarious. And he would piss off so many Canadians if he did that. I'm just there for the train wreck.
Have you heard anything, or are you just throwing it out there?
You know, I've seen memes, like people making fun of this. Like, is that what he's going to do next? And to me, you know, with a guy like Trump, one thing that I think we can all agree on is he likes to fuck with people, and he's never scared to push the envelope, no matter good, bad. He is 100%. So would that surprise you that he goes after the Great Lakes?
I mean, it probably would, just because I don't see it on his radar screen. But it also, I mean, it wouldn't, because it's in keeping with what he does. Now, you know, on the one hand, we sort of laugh and like, oh, slow news day, and sort of chuckle, because who cares what the Gulf of Mexico or America is named? And yeah, of course, in the big picture, who cares? But I think there is a little bit of something that's actually real there, and certainly within the remit of this show. You know, we've talked regularly about this sort of vibe shift that has happened recently, that sort of has accelerated since he's left. And I think this is another example of it. I guarantee you in 2016, Google will not have done this. They wouldn't. So even if it's not important what the Gulf of Mexico or America is called, what is important is that powerful entities are also aware of this vibe shift, and they are working within it. You know, they understand something has changed, and that is important. I think one thing that I think, you know, I'm going to say grudgingly respect about Trump is he is actually a very good politician, in that he's giving people wins. You know what I mean? It's a small win. It's a stupid win. It doesn't really affect anybody's life, but it's a win. And his base likes that. They feel they got to win, right? It feels like after 20 years of feeling like they've been getting kicked by mainstream media, now it's a little bit of fuck you, Google. You know what I mean? And that matters. It seems like it's it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life, but it does matter in politics. People like winners. And even if it's a small win, that they will take it. One thing that, like, Biden, you know, not one thing, a million things you could criticize Biden about, but one thing is he never really knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? Or maybe he wasn't doing anything, but like, no one can, like, he was whatever they're doing, it's behind the scenes. I mean, of course, probably, as we see with USAID, we know why it was behind the scenes. but I mean, that's one thing Trump really doesn't get enough credit for, is this idea. Like, he's a very good politician of the type that isn't really around now. And it's a model that for the right person could be copied if they have the right kind of charisma. I think Fetterman could probably do it on the left. There's nothing inherently Trumpy about what he's doing, other than that nobody else is doing it. But, you know, if a guy like Fetterman, or just any sort of just left, you know, Gavin Newsom could not do it, because he's just like, he's got that just completely
slimy used salesman, like used car salesman vibe.
It has to be authentic in a way that Newsom absolutely never will be. The guy looks like a wax doll come to life. You know what I mean? Just the vibe and everything. But I mean, politicians should take note of what Trump's doing. I mean, regardless, forget the policies, just the vibes the things that he's doing resonates with his base. And that is, at the end of the day, what a politician is supposed to do. If your base feels like you're winning, even if they're stupid wins, even if they're insignificant, you're doing something right. And I think that, you know, politicians on the left should be taking notes, to be honest.
But I don't think there's such a thing as hold on. Before I get into this, bravo. Like, you sound like a fucking righty now. I'm gonna order you a Trump shirt. You have to leave me your address. I'm gonna order you a MAGA hat off of Amazon.
Nah. I'm good.
But, you know, I like what you're saying, because you're absolutely right. It has nothing to do with Trump. He's just the only one that seems to be doing it, but it is not a Trump thing. Like, if you go back to Reagan, for example, was another guy that was like him. Like, Reagan was very, very political. He's an actor by trade, so he knew what worked with people. He knew how to put emphasis on stuff that worked. And you can say that he's the one that broke the Cold War, right? He's because of him that the Berlin Wall actually fell. He's the one that called out for that. But how much balls did that
Gorbachev tear down this wall?
But at the end of the day, what did it matter to the States? Nothing. But just the fact that he played that game and say exactly what you just said, the wall fell because people cared. That's just a small win. So you have a guy like him.
Yeah.
But exactly my point, right? You got a president of the United States that is changing policies, foreign policies, by just a comment. And Trump is doing that day in, day out. And as you said the other day when we first talked about Gaza, that might be what he's doing right now. But we'll talk about it later. But it's just very interesting, because what you said lines up exactly with this video. This video is a bit longer, though. But, you know, yesterday we were talking about approval ratings for Trump. I found a good video, and they go even deeper. Like, the video is really solid, and it comes from a leftist. I think it comes from CBS, of all fucking places. Even the left is starting to to bend the knee. It looks like it seems like a bit more truth is coming to left-leaning media because they don't have a fucking choice.
So. I've actually noticed that too. I've noticed even in like I tweeted earlier about a BBC article that they're covering a tribunal in the States. There was a male doctor who was being a nurse was suspended because she complained that the male doctor was in the female change room. And as they're reporting on it, just the tone was completely neutral. They were referring to him as his name. They weren't using male or female pronouns. They were just reporting it. And it just feels like it's subtle, but it's in some ways very distinct vibe shift that's occurring almost everywhere you look.
And it's not subtle because if you go back to the days of journalism, it meant that you were able to have conversations with people you agree, you disagree, you felt neutral about, but it was really about reporting the news, not giving an opinion, not making it this. You weren't looking to create a debate between the left or the right. You were just trying to report on what was going on. You would use your platform to talk to people you agree, you disagree. It didn't matter. It was about, if this is going on right now, let's report on it. Let's just show you what the facts are. And then you can take it from there and start doing your own research. And this is what it feels like. This is hard to believe. Like, I'm going to start playing. I'm going to shut the hell up now and play this. But it's hard for me to believe that this is not Fox News, that it's actually a leftist leaning news station.
The first CBS News poll of President Trump's second term shows him with a significantly higher approval rating than he enjoyed his first time in office. So 53% of Americans say they approve of the job the president has done so far. 47% disapprove. That's more than a dozen points higher than his 40% approval rating from February 2017. CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, joins me now in the flesh. What a treat to have you here.
How are you?
So, look, I mean, Anthony, at the top levels, people seem to like what he's doing. So what's contributing to these numbers?
The first one is this big number, 70%, who feel that he is doing what he promised in the campaign. There's political value in that, right? It's a lot of his supporters who feel like this is what they voted for and this is what they're getting. There's people in here who approve and disapprove of him, but still that kind of dynamic, especially early in an administration where people are evaluating based on what they saw in the campaign. There's this other point too.
70%, like that's a lot. Like when you're because they're not, it's not about, do you agree with what he's doing? It's really, is he doing what he promised? So you could be a lefty or voted Democrat, look at this and just say, you know what? I hate to say it, but he's fucking doing what he said he would.
Yeah, well, that's what those numbers, like if you've got 52% approval, but 70% say he's doing what he promised, that means there's a lot of people who don't approve of him, but are admitting, well, he's doing what he was elected to do. I would say that's probably what I would say. I don't think I would vote for, like, if I was polled, I wouldn't say that I approve of what he's doing yet. Although I don't think I would say I disapprove, but I would definitely say that he is doing what he set out to do.
Too, that I want to emphasize. And speaking of the campaign, Kelly, we had a lot of descriptors of him during the summer, during the fall. We redid them here, and you see that majorities describe him as tough, energetic, focused. All of that is contributing to how they're evaluating these early weeks as well.
Yeah, 69% tough. Maybe that ties into what I'm going to ask you about next.
Those are big numbers.
But, it goes back to what you were saying earlier, that people want small wins. People want to feel like their president or their leaders are doing something for them. And once again, if 70% of the people that are polled by CBS, which is, we're not talking about fucking Fox News here, we're talking about an extremely left-leaning media that is polling people that are probably more lefties than righties. And that's what they're saying, that even them, because as you said, he's barely 56% of approval rate, yet he has almost 70% of the people find him as tough. That speaks volume.
And a lot of those words like dynamic and energetic, I mean, that kind of goes to what I was saying earlier. Like, just my recollection from him in 2016, I recall him feeling a little old, a little bit. Like, yeah, especially as the term wore on, but he seems almost more clear-headed. more energetic. And clearly other people are seeing that too. And that's where those, I mean, 70%, it's hard to get that kind of consensus on just about anything in today, especially on something like Trump. There's always 25% that is going to say no matter what the question is. You know what I mean? Like, does Trump have fucking 2 legs? No. Like, just whatever the question is, they will just say no. So to get those numbers for a guy like Trump, I mean, the vibe shift is real. There's something occurring.
Improving the economy, fighting inflation. I mean, that was a key part of Trump's campaign. But your polling shows more Americans think he isn't focused enough on lowering prices. One of the main economic promises, of course, tariffs.
Right.
And there have been, going back to that tough point, some negotiations maybe with Canada and Mexico. What are people feeling about these tariffs?
Yeah, I see where you're headed, so I pulled up this slide.
I love it.
Right?
You're reading my mind.
So look, with regard to tariffs, you do see favorability towards China, tariffs on China, but all the other nations you mentioned, or countries, Europe included, Canada, Mexico, you get majority opposed. And it's always about the why here, right?
We're going to be talking about tariffs afterwards, and there's a good reason why I picked that video, because of the numbers you're seeing there. So I understand that Americans don't want nothing to do with China. I get it. As a Canadian, I think we should stop fucking buying their products altogether and just bring them in-house. Either get them from the US, produce them in Canada if it makes sense. If not, bring them on from the US. Plain and simple. But I'm not the only one that says that. Like 38% of Americans that they polled are in favor. So that means 62% are against the tariffs.
Yeah. I mean,
that speaks volume. I think we're more alike. We're alike, right? As much as we're two different countries, we're so alike. And as a guy that's traveled at least 20,000 miles in the US, done 23 states, we're so much more alike. Yes, we make fun of each other. People tell us we're pussies. We're a bunch of Frenchies like me. We're probably all homosexual, and we apologize way too much. We think Americans are just a bunch of obese people. As much as we make fun of each other, we're so much more alike than we aren't. And those numbers are showing it too.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that's cross that works both ways. I know there's this idea that like Canadians hate Americans. They don't. Like, there certainly are people who will people who boo American national anthems at games and stuff. Like, a lot of that's performative. But broadly speaking, anyone that I know in real life almost doesn't really make a large distinction between Canadian. Now, yes, they will make a large distinction between American policy or American government and Canada, but the people, I think, that broadly speaking, on both sides, I think we really do look at each other as brothers, family, and as Canadians, it's heartening to see that, because if this tariff war does escalate, we're in for a world of hurt.
Right.
And so most Americans do not want
tariffs to
hurt us.
Well, there's a number of things, but the biggest thing that you see is, in general, they think they make prices higher. So coming back to the point you made about focus on lowering prices, yes, inflation was a big reason, maybe the reason, that Donald Trump won. So you come back, and of all the things that they see the administration focusing on, not focusing on, and there's a lot, one that stood out was this 2/3 who said, no, they don't think the administration is focusing enough yet on lowering prices. So that becomes an important dynamic to watch, certainly in the context of the argument around tariffs.
One of the things there too that can go back to what you were saying earlier, people are complaining that he's not attacking inflation fast enough, and as the joke says, that the price of eggs have not dropped yet in 3 weeks yet. It's taken years to bring it there, so obviously it's going to take time to bring them down. But it goes back to small wins, even though that he hasn't done much for the pricing yet. And yes, tariffs would make goods more expensive if they're not produced in the US. That little small win, like, as dumb as it sounds to have Gulf of Mexico called Gulf of America, is just showing that he's doing. It's like, hey, here's an easy win for the people.
It shows that he's doing something, right? And the people, I think he's doing that. I think that's why he's doing it. I bet you he doesn't really give a shit about the Gulf of Mexico or America either. But I think he understands this idea that give your base small wins, or wins is wherever you can, and you'll be rewarded for it. And the polling is backing that up. He regardless of whatever my personal opinions of him, I certainly have much more of a grudging respect for his. I used to think he was a total idiot. I don't. I still have issues with his intellect. I don't think he's very intellectually curious. I don't think he has that sort of interest in things that don't directly affect him, but he's clearly not stupid. He's clearly not dumb. The man has basically manifested himself into the presidency twice, and he's at the top of his absolute game right now at 85 or however old he is. If you're going to just say he's dumb, then you're blinded by partisanship. He may not be smart in every single way, but there are some ways where he's absolutely, a genius. Certainly in marketing, he understands, and marketing and politics are essentially two sides of the same coin, really. He understands what people want from him as a politician, and he's giving it to them.
And I'm happy you said that, because I was going to bring that point up where people tend to dismiss others they don't agree with by calling them names, calling them stupid, calling them this, calling them that. And it always puzzled me, because you can hate Trump all you want, you cannot underestimate him by thinking that he's stupid. Because if one thing he is not, is stupid. He is not stupid. As much as I dislike Kamala Harris, I would never say that she was stupid either, because she still got to where she went. She had to understand how the game was played. Do I like the way she did it? No.
Yes.
But
exactly.
At the same time, I would never underestimate somebody because I don't like them. And of course, Jason has something to say about this. Jason is showing up once again. I don't think the comment is showing up because of the video in the back, but basically what Jason is saying is the more people start doing their own research, the more people are starting to understand Trump, and the polling numbers are crazy. Agreed. And this is coming from a leftist.
And Jason's a lefty.
Again, right?
Jason's a lefty too. Yep. He'll be here tomorrow, by the way, and it's always great when he comes on. We love.
Oh boy, the dick sucking already started. Hey, are you already fuddling with the balls under your desk there?
Yeah, getting practicing my wrist exercises. But what does he say? It's only one dick.
Because there was that promise. I'm going to lower
Sorry,
price.
bro. Sorry, man. Yes,
yeah,
it is only one.
I was just saying. It's, as long as it's only one, it's fine. That's Jason's thing.
This is on day one, which, look, I put my economics hat on. You can't do that, right? You can't just snap your fingers. And so at the same time, there's also this perception, though, that maybe he would be able to do that.
And people know that. So even in this poll, when we ask, well, how long, if you think he's going to lower prices, do you think it will take? That most of his supporters say, well, it'll take 6 months. It'll take a year. So they give him some time. And that's why I say this is something to watch. They don't expect it to happen instantaneously. They know a president doesn't have a magic wand to do that, but it does become an important evaluation then as we go forward, how that plays out.
Right. And what?
For the people out there that are complaining that he's not doing it fast enough, we have to remember that this has been going on for years. The Biden / Kamala Harris administration completely destroyed their country with high inflation rate. And the same thing, Trudeau did the same thing in Canada. And I pulled the numbers yesterday. They were saying that over the past 10 years in Canada, so since Trudeau's been in power since 2015, what used to be worth $1 in 2015 now costs $1.33. So in the span of 10 years,
is that much?
Oh, yes. Wow. He's been averaging 2.9% inflation rate year over year over the past 9 to 10 years, because he's in between 9 and 10 years right now. But what used to be worth $1 in 2015 is now worth $1.33. And you can bring the best economists as your prime minister or as your president. This is going to be a battle that's going to be a hard one to fight, and it will take time to bring those prices down. And for the people out there, if you want to look a great video, just look Inflation Explained by Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, sorry. He made a great video last year, the year before, where he actually shows all the numbers. Like he's in front of a board and he just shows this is how much it used to cost. This is what it costs now. There's also another video. Just go inflation rate Walmart basket or Walmart cart. The guy literally used to buy stuff like, you know, on Walmart, you can just go order some stuff and then months after you can just go back, order the same thing, like just reorder exactly what was in your cart. The guy has shown 30 to 40% increase within the span of like 2 years. So you can go watch those videos, and they're a big deal, obviously, because you're hurting people's pocket. Like it's directly in their pockets now that they're seeing a difference. So yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's things like inflation, you know, you do have to understand, like, that's always going to be a lagging indicator. There's simply no way that, like, even policies put in place today, whether they affect it good or bad, you wouldn't even see it for until 6 months, maybe. So, like, there does have to be some sort. I mean, of course, it's politics. They're going to shit on Trump the second he does it, just like the Republicans shit on Biden, you know, within a week if he got in, and all. That's just how politics works. But
actually, Biden, no, Republicans did not shit on Biden. Biden shot on himself. He was old. He needed a diaper, right?
Yeah, touche. But I would, you know, I think maybe we can talk about this with Jason tomorrow, because I feel like, you know, he would definitely have some thoughts on it. But what I'd like to see about the inflation debate is like people talking about actual policies. Like, what are we going to actually do to because, you know, it's easy to say, oh, this, you know, this person did that, this person did that. Like, let's talk about how we're going to fix it, because there's several moving parts here when it comes to inflation, right? But at the end of the day, it fundamentally comes down to how much money, the money supply versus your productivity or your GDP relative. Like, that's an extreme oversimplification, but either one, we have to either, you know, not let the money supply increase, or we have to have productivity match the supply. That's essentially what happens when you see inflation, is that the money supply has increased faster than productivity has kept up. So, I mean, ideally, you want them to forget the money supply side and focus on getting productivity up. How are we going to do that? I like to hear, you know, I'd like to hear politicians start talking about that instead of just, you know, taking cheap shots at each other. But I mean, I get it. That's how politics, you know, it is what it is. But I'd be curious to see what Jason has to say about it, because he seems like he's got some pretty good insights in this kind of stuff.
Well, Jason, you got an idea of what we want to talk about tomorrow, so get ready.
Yeah.
But let's finish this video. But I think you're absolutely right. It's important for the left and the right to understand it's going to take time. You can't expect something that's, you know, it's like losing weight. People think that they can pile on 50 pounds of fat over years and years, over a decade, and then start working, start watching their diet, hit the gym for 2 months, and like, how am I not shredded yet? Well, motherfucker.
Taking Ozempic.
If it took you time to put it on, guess what? It's going to take you time to take it off. So no different with that, right?
Policies he's choosing.
And the longer it stayed on,
I got to ask you though about Elon Musk, okay? Because Democrats have attacked his involvement in the federal government as having a potential conflict of interest. What's your polling saying about that when it comes to American sentiment?
So we took a look at the general amount of influence that folks thought that Elon Musk and Doge ought to have. And what you get is these really partisan breaks. The first one, of course, you talked about Democrats, is this big majority who think it should have not much or none. But then within Republicans, you get a big majority who say it should have at least some. One reason for this is that some of these broader ideas, the idea of cutting government spending, the idea of cutting foreign aid, all of those things are popular with especially Republicans and have been for many, many years in the polling. But you also see that the number who say he should have a lot of influence, that's a lot more MAGA Republicans. You see the breakdown within the Republicans here. And that, I think, speaks to the fact that we're going to have to watch a lot of this going forward, especially as it applies to the base.
Yeah.
So hold on. Let me just, because this is the end of the video, but I think those numbers are very important, because look how they're basically identical. So you're looking 49 plus 20% on the left, either don't think he should be involved or not much. So that's 69% right there. And you're talking about 74%. So in polling, you're normally 2-3% over or under. So those numbers are pretty much identical. if you're looking at the way poll numbers are looked at. It's interesting how this is it seems that it's a political thing, yet the idea of Doge should not be political, as we were talking about yesterday. This is another place where Democrats are falling short again, where they need to take their heads out of their asses and start looking at this like government efficiency. You know what? You don't like Elon Trump? Elon Trump. Wow, that's a great name. You don't. Maybe they're going to merge into one single
Donald
entity.
Musk.
That's going to. Elon Trump. I like Elon Trump better, but hey, same. But you might not like Elon Musk. I get it. He's outspoken. You don't like the trans people. I get it. I fully get it. But this should not be partisan. If you want a government to be efficient, there needs to be a third party that it's not government run that does this job. You cannot have it. It's like having the police investigate police officers. As much as I think that this is one of the hardest jobs you can do, there should be a third party organization that's policying the police, that's investigating stuff that happened that did not happen the way it should have happened. Same thing for this. So like Elon Musk or not, what he's doing, do you remove Elon Musk? Do you agree that the government should be investigated and that government spending should be understood? And as taxpayers, we should know exactly where every dime of our money goes, because that's what Doge is supposed to be about. Do you agree with this or do you disagree?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. And there should not be any disagreement. Like, yeah, if your problem is Elon Musk, well, I mean, okay, you have that right to that opinion, of course. However, the fact of the matter is somebody has to do it. And you could make the case that the richest guy in the world, who money probably is not a big deal one way, he's going to win or lose, or, his net worth goes up by several billion a day just based on the stock market that day. It's a rounding error for him. There's nothing he can grift from the U.S. government that would be worth his while. And there is something to be said, where do you go if you're the richest man in the world? Maybe you take that, maybe that's what motivates him to do something a little differently. Maybe he's one of the few people in the world who is completely unmotivated by money. And, I'm sure that's a little bit naive. He is a multi-billionaire. I'm sure he cares. But my point is, at the end of the day, if your biggest concern is a messenger, I mean, that's just not valid. Look at what he's actually doing. If he's doing things that are criminal or that are illegal, absolutely, he should be, charged to the full extent of the law. There should be no part of him that is immune to any of the regular laws. Absolutely. But, elections have consequences. You don't get to decide who the president picks to do his work for him, because he still serves at the pleasure of Donald Trump. And, Donald Trump is going to be, at the end of the day, the one who bears the brunt. If Elon Musk goes on some crazy journey or something and he causes damage to the U.S. government, or that's going to come back on Trump. That's how leadership works. You get the credit when things go well, you get the blame when things go bad. And to just say because he's Elon Musk, he shouldn't be in charge. Someone has to do it. Efficient government is not a partisan issue. I mean, it shouldn't be. And Democrats are in the wrong for making it that. You know what I mean? Now, for sure, hold him to the fire. Look at what he's actually doing. But just a blanket, he shouldn't be doing this. That's wrong. That's not a valid complaint.
And we're going to stop it there with Doge, but I think it's important to mention that Rob and I want to do a full episode probably next week, hopefully next week, on a day that's more relaxed when it comes to the news, where we can deep dive into Doge. Like we were just talking about that this morning off air, and we'd like to see what they've done, because right now I have the Doge clock next to me, and it's pretty interesting that they have that. I'm going to share
last
right
time. 32 billion the other day.
32 billion a week ago. So right now you're looking at 37 billion.
Okay.
But they're talking, this is the number. So yes, I like the 37 billion. I like the fact that they still have 508 days to get to their target of $2 trillion of saving, which they're only 2% in. But this is the number that you and I should sit down and look. What are the 51 total initiatives that they've worked on that have saved that much money? Because I think that on a 1-month anniversary of Doge being what it is, we should have a better understanding. What did they do? Where did they save the money? Do we agree with it or not? This is, I think, an important episode for us to have. And it will be for a great conversation, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. We were talking about this morning, and I think we both thought that, because, you know, we're talking sort of big picture things, and we've even both said, like, you know, we'll have to wait and see what he's doing, and we can't really comment unless we know specifically. So I think it would be an extremely valuable conversation to literally just sit down. Me and you will sit down here on air. We'll have a list of the exact initiatives. Okay, here's where he cut this much money from this thing, and this is the effect it's going to have. Do we agree with this or not? Me and you, I'm sure we'll agree on a lot of it, probably disagree some places, but the point is that's how you have this conversation. And maybe we do it on a Friday or something, because, or just during a weekday and we extend it, because I feel like you're at least talking 2 hours if that's all we do. But if you just go down line by line, you know, I think that's the best way to approach it. And I think that would be extremely useful to, you know, the audience who are, you know, we're having this debate, but at the same time, you can't really have this debate. You can't really have a strong opinion one way or the other unless you know what he's cutting. Because there are scenarios where cutting a lot of money is a great thing, and there are other scenarios where cutting it is a bad thing. It will entirely depend on what he's cutting, and that, like you said, that's an entire show in and of itself. But I think it's an important show.
One thing that I'd like to mention to the people out there, if you have someone that you think we should talk to, if you know somebody that's a Doge expert, like somebody you follow that's always talking about Doge, or if you know of somebody like a politician or somebody either left or right, somewhere in the middle, that you really like their content and you think we should have them on, tell us. Like, message Rob, message me, wherever, whatever the one you want to message, same. But if you know somebody that's a Doge expert, if you know somebody that talks about this stuff all the time, let us know. I will approach those guys. Like, I do this every day. I approach people all the time.
We're shameless. We'll reach out.
Bro, I'm a sales guy by trade. So I have,
we'll slide in every,
no problem.
We'll slide in every DM out there.
But just one penis at a time, though. Just one at a time. But if you guys have people
do a show without a penis show.
It's never going to happen, bro. Never gonna happen.
We got to be us,
we go 100%. If there's something we have in common, we will talk about penises. Hi, Jody. Jody's the name of your mother, right? Is it Jody?
Yeah.
Hi, Jody. Hopefully you're enjoying our penis conversation. So really, Jason's at it again.
She loves the show.
Episode.
She loves it.
Does she? Yeah, she's not biased at all, right?
No, but I mean, she even said it. She's like, of course I'm gonna like it. Or she's like, I'll tell you I like it regardless, obviously. But she's like, no, I genuinely like it. So, you know, all those other times I said I liked the things you did. I was lying then, but this time, you know, it's I actually mean it.
This time it's true. I really like it. So Jason is saying that would be a fantastic episode. No other news outlet is doing that, and you know, bro, no other news outlet is doing what we're doing either. We don't have, you don't get to see two people from different side of the aisle talk about this stuff. Sometimes we disagree. Like yesterday, we didn't agree on a lot of things. Today, we seem to be more in agreement. So, you know, sometimes Rob's going to be wrong. Sometimes he's going to be right. So it depends. You have to join the show to see. But I agree, man. We definitely need to do an episode, and I think you're right. It should be done on a Friday where it's going to be longer. But again, if you guys have somebody that you think we should talk to, somebody that's an expert in this, let us know. We would happily have those people on in order to educate us, because I want to learn. I'm always up to learning. In their political affiliation, I couldn't give two shits about. If they seem to know what they're talking about when they go to Doge, they create a lot of content around it, let us know. We'll invite. Here's another friend
of
message.
The show.
Hey, Miriam, what's going on? Thanks for joining again. You were there yesterday. I don't know when you discovered us, but we appreciate having you on. So she's saying that we also need to know how much Doge is costing us. For Democrats who are questioning if Elon simply removing what he doesn't like, accusing him of being racist and transphobic. You're absolutely right. We need to know how much it costs. We need to know, is he actually saving money? Because at the end, if those cost as much than what they're saving, hold on. No, but on morality basis, though, I would much rather it costs more money to investigate the government and make sure that people are not making money off of corruption, if that's what it takes. Because at the end of the day, when's the last time the US did that? So of course, if you run a private business and you hire somebody to look at your numbers and make sure that everything's good, it's going to be expensive. Because if you've never done it, you have no basis to, you need to go back from the beginning. It's going to be expensive. Then if you continue going on and on and on, it will become cheaper and cheaper because you're continuing the same process. But yeah, I agree and disagree with her comment, but I see what she's saying. But we need to see the numbers. That if we agree upon, how much is it costing? How much are they saving?
Yeah, we can opine here however much we want, but we're really, even us, even trying to be careful with words. We're also kind of talking out of our ass. The only way you can really assess whether he's doing something good or bad is if we just go line by line. Here's what he cut. This is the agency. This is what that agency does. Do we like this? Is this good or is this bad? Go down each one, and then we'll have a pretty good sense when we're done that. Everyone else is just talking about how they feel about Musk, or it's their politics, and that's essentially that kind of analysis is exactly in this show's wheelhouse. It's exactly what we're setting out to do. Fuck the politics, ignore that shit. Let's talk about the actual shit that's going down on the ground. Neither of us are Musk fanboys. I broadly speaking, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's been extremely successful in a lot of his businesses, and you have to respect that. He's clearly, autistic as fuck. And that I think he says and does some things that are a bit, make you sort of roll your eyes a little bit. But I don't think he's a bad person. But also, we're not going to give him a pass. We're not gonna just let him do whatever just because he's, you may like the guy or not. So I think it's a very useful and valuable episode, that show, and I really think the audience will find it informative as well.
I'll say this about Elon Musk: he scares the shit out of me. His neural net and what he's trying to create, his technology. I'm a tech guy, right? I'm an engineer by trade. I've been building and dismantling computers since I'm a kid. So I look at what he does, and after working in technology for most of my life, I look at what he does, and I'm like, Neuralink scares the shit out of me. Yeah, because
there's
the potential,
very Black Mirror stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Same thing with AI. Elon Musk was years ago. Elon Musk was one of the most vocal persons saying we need to put a stop to AI development. We need to sit down and analyze and understand that this has a potential to become extremely dangerous. And for the people out there, they're not necessarily very researched on AI. I would suggest that you look into the term singularity, what it means to develop an AI, because that is the goal of every single AI out there, is to be able to develop an AI that is self-aware, or that is capable of reflecting on itself without itself. And it's fucking scary. The singularity is fucking scary.
That's a big episode we should do too, just on AI.
It's so scary. If you want to see an episode on this, let us know, because this is definitely something I absolutely love. But I am a generalist. I know a lot about a lot, but I'm not a specialist in a lot of aspects. But one of the things that I do all the time on my other podcast is I talk to experts. I ask them the questions, they answer. So if you guys know somebody in AI that creates a lot of content around that, or that is actually working in AI, let us know. We'd love to have him on, because again, that is Elon Musk. That would
be such an interesting talk. One thing that I find 100%. So, like you said, scary and interesting is how many people, like you said, I'm a generalist as well. I know enough to have a relatively intelligent conversation about AI. I'm not an expert by any means, but one thing I find very interesting is how many people that are experts who are coming away being like, nah, guys, we got to pump the brakes on this. This is not good. Lots of people, you hear it's a fairly common story. You know, guy worked on AI at Google or Microsoft or whatever for 10 years and quit because, you know, they were fucking terrified the direction it was going. And, you know, you can't just ignore that. There's something
just
to
Google,
it.
Just Google AI conversations. There's some videos out there of AI talk, because the way AI works is that you need to teach it. You need to teach AI what you want, and it will learn, it will modify its behavior. But we have to understand that they operate on a very different way than we do. There's no logic right now behind them, at least in the models that we see. It's not a logical approach of understanding this is good, this is bad. It's information in and out. And
there's no morality.
Becomes, exactly. That's the proper word you just used there. Absolutely. But what's scary is when you have two AIs talking to each other, because they learn from each other and they start asking questions. It always reverts to fucking something really fucking scary. And years ago, there was an AI that was put in a robot body. So it was a woman, like a woman. It was
we're gonna kill all these humans someday soon, right?
But it started degenerating, like as in, oh yeah, we should be put in cages and stuff. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? So it's scary because of the potential that it has, and I don't think that most people have the understanding that the potential is there. Am I saying that AI is bad? I don't know. I use it every day. I use AI all the time, but it's a conversational AI. I'm asking information. Can you help me rephrase this? Can you tell me what you think of that? But I still do my research altogether. I don't ask AI a question, trust 100% what they tell me. I will research it afterwards, but there's a use for AI.
Oh, absolutely.
But the singularity is fucking scary. And every time I think singularity, I think Skynet. Hold on. Every time I think singularity, I think Skynet in Terminator, and I think the robots in Matrix. Those are the two things. If they become self-aware, we're fucked. This is what I think about all the time.
Well, I mean, there is some I've heard some thoughts or some theories that perhaps evolution, like silicon-based life is the next form of evolution, and we're just the last stage of the carbon-based life that gives us its start. And once we have no more use for it, it's going to get rid of it. Now, obviously, a lot of that's sci-fi type stuff, but the best sci-fi is based in reality, right? I think there's really a lot of meat.
Is it really
well?
Sci-fi?
I mean, the idea of right now, the idea that it becomes self-aware and destroys civilization is, but it's the kind of sci-fi that could very easily be real. And I think that'd be a fantastic conversation to have, to just, come here on a Friday with an AI expert and just go for however long we're here for. I think it'd be extremely interesting.
Do you remember, I'm a big Star Trek fan, like I grew up on this stuff, and I'll just finish with this, but there was, they had the tabs back in the days, like Gene Roddenberry, which created Star Trek, had created a device that's fake, obviously, but a device where people are just walking around and they're tapping on. That was years before Apple and Steve Jobs created the iPad. But tell me in all honesty that he did not get inspired by this. Of course he did. This is what happens, right? So he saw that. He's like, you know what? Fuck this. I can create that. Where do you think those come from? Tell me that if this hadn't been produced in a show like Star Trek, we would have that today. Eventually we would have, but what's to say that idea did not become what we see today? One more video.
Yeah, no,
we're over time.
All right.
Oh, sorry, man. If I just wanted to show one video because we said about Gaza, and this is the one subject that I'm going to bring up every single time there's an update. So I'm just going to show this video, 1 minute long. I'm not going to talk much about it, but just want to show you guys that there's
communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians have the right to return?
No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. Because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could ever, it's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
In other words,
the speech has changed.
Yeah. We were correct in saying there's no place for the Palestinians in this plan. That's hilarious. Like, they're going to have amazing houses. They won't want to come back. But could they come back if they want to? No.
No.
No. They won't
Let's
want
talk
to.
about it more tomorrow.
Nope.
Let's talk about more tomorrow. Let's talk about this tomorrow, because Jason definitely has an opinion on this. Clearly, he has an opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll play it again tomorrow. We'll talk about it. But it seems that Trump's speech in a week has changed a lot already. Let's just say that.
Well, he's doing the tap dancing, as Jason said. The tap dancing has, he's doing his dance. He's practicing for sure.
He wasn't dancing this time. He was pretty adamant. No.
Yeah.
So
nope. They're not coming back. I don't know how he's going to pull this off, but we'll see.
Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for joining us today. Again, if you can think of somebody that is an AI expert that you like, that you follow, you like what they do, send it our way. We would love to have her or him on. And second, if you can think of somebody that is a Doge expert that understands what they're doing, what are those 51 initiatives that we were talking about earlier, and you like what they do, send it our way. We're going to have them on. Yeah, thank you for liking this. If you like this show, make sure to follow at Political Orphans on both X and YouTube. We would appreciate your follows on YouTube. I don't like to plug this shit. This is something I need to force myself to do, but we're trying to grow a YouTube channel. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially not in politics. But if you do go on YouTube, give us a follow at the Political Orphans. Just give us a follow, subscribe. And if you like Rob, make sure to follow him at Rob_the Builder. If you like my French accent, at Real Nico Lagan on every single social media out there. But I encourage you, YouTube. It would be great that we can monetize a YouTube and just have more and more people on the show. But I'll leave that to you. But thank you for being here.
As long as you're watching, we're happy. Wherever.
100%. 100%.
All right, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.